Why do we need 2 international caps lock days?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your magician of sorcery, Soup.
Wait, well, how come you're not the magician of soup? Magician of the soup.
I could be a magician of soup.
That would make more sense, right?
I don't make a lot of soup, though, is the thing, but I do a lot of sorcery.
Oh, could be sorcery soup. Anyway, I'm your Dr. Stone Renu.
You're soap.
I'm Soapstone.
I'm soup, and you're soap.
Yeah.
Man,
we could have been a real duo.
Yeah, that's true. This week S stands for Absolute Territory because we'll be wrapping up the summer 2019 season. But before we get into that, what have we been up to?
Well, I have been getting slaughtered by Inktober.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
We're nearing the end of it.
We are nearing the end of it. By the time we record our next episode, I will be done. I'm super behind in the way of I at least draw something of the entry that I'm gonna, do for the day. But how far I get depends on how much time I have. And because I draw slowly, it never pans out well.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, we only have so much time.
Right, exactly. And so even on weekends when I'm free, I'm just playing catch up, and even then I'm still behind. So that's my life right now.
Renu, you should just take it easy. Do something a little simpler. Do you have like a theme you're doing for your Inktober?
Yeah, I'm doing character concept art.
Character concept art. Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty it's just a lot. I considering like the stuff that I've been drawing, like really an Inktober entry ought to be like half of what I draw for a day's worth. You know what I mean? Like I'm drawing way too much for one day kind of thing.
Yeah. See, you should just break it up and like do like a sketch.
Yeah.
In ink and then move on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not here to tell you how to do art though, so
no, but that is what I should do. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I mean, as nice as it is to like have like a you take it slow and you do the whole thing. Like, we only have so much time.
Yeah, it would stress me out less, but yeah, I mean, we basically only have like a little over a week left of October anyway.
Okay, so. But I mean, in all fairness, once your Inktober ends, my NaNoWriMo begins. So
right,
I'm in literally no position to speak whatsoever about this.
I was thinking, like, I was like, oh man, I've always wanted to complete NaNoWriMo, and I was like, I don't know if I have it in me to do Inktober and NaNoWriMo, which some people do.
I mean,
some people do both.
I feel like they're back to back, and it's just so, I don't know, it's too much. I would not be able to do it. I will say, I wasn't necessarily planning on it, but I was gifted a brilliant idea, a beautiful like little kernel of a novel by my friend, because I was talking about like, well, I've always like played around with the idea of writing a novel, like it would be about this kind of thing, and he was kind enough to be like to help me develop it and be like, well, what if it was like this kind of thing? And I'm like, God damn, you're a genius.
Yay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna destroy myself over November, and maybe at the end of it I'll have a product, and maybe it won't.
Whoa.
It all depends on how it goes.
Get that, Brett.
Yeah. What else have you been up to?
Um, that's it. Otherwise, while I've been working on Inktober, I've been binge watching like Netflix mystery shows.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's it. They're not very like compelling or whatever. I mean, they're like they're okay, you know. But it's like that kind of thing where it's like I need them to just be okay, or else I'll watch the show instead of drawing.
Yeah, that's fair. So normally and this is a little bit of a spoiler for the rest of the episode. Together, collectively, we seem to only have watched about 5 shows, which I mean, I wanted to watch more, but I don't. I have not been. This is a funny thing. I have not been playing as much Granblue lately, and because of that, I have not been able to watch as much anime. As funny as that sounds, I've been playing games that require me to actually play the game with my entire set of eyeballs, and I won't be able to pay attention to really anything else.
Right. Yeah,
So.
it's the same with me and like drawing and anime. It's like I can't draw and watch anime at the same time unless it's something that I really don't care about.
Yeah,
because it involves reading subtitles or like, you know, listening to the actual audio and understanding.
Which is a bummer
saying.
because there's at least 2 shows that I wanted to watch, maybe 2.5. Like I really wanted to watch the rest of Vinland Saga. You did put it on here. Is that because you watched it?
I watched it, but I didn't. I got further than what we watched as a group. But
okay,
that's not saying much because we didn't watch a whole. We watched one episode as a group.
Like 1 or 2 episodes. It was not a lot. And I really wanted to watch the rest of Oh Maidens in Your Savage Season, but that didn't come to be because we're busy. Holy shit, we got so busy so fast. Like it. I mean. This happens anytime a couple of weeks happen where like some of us can't make it or like whatever. We have to play catch up and suddenly we like have to start dropping shows. It's unfortunate, but we only have so much time in the day. Somehow me included, even though I don't actually have like a job or anything. I'm just bad at doing things, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So that's all you've been really up to, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have been playing Destiny, which is the game that has been occupying most of my time lately, and I'm just I hit the like soft power cap, and I've just been kind of grinding out activities for stronger gear so that eventually I will be ready to maybe do like a raid or something. Yeah, so that's where I'm at there. It's pretty cool. It's actually a pretty fun game to play, all things considered. The weapons in it feel very nice. Like they're very satisfying to play with. And so the rest of the game is kind of like it can be as whatever as it is. I think most of it's pretty good. Some of the PvP modes are a little bit obnoxious. But that's just because I don't know. You have to do PvP for certain rewards, like certain challenges like weekly. Which is not the worst. If it was like an MMO PvP style thing, I wouldn't really be for it. But because it's like mostly just FPS, I'm like, okay, I can grind out matches. Like this is not that hard. I've been playing FPS for a long time. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. But like the kind of big thing that I did since the last time we spoke was Big Bad Con.
How was that?
I went to Big Bad Con, and it's actually really funny because the con basically lasted a week for me.
Oh.
Yeah. It is technically speaking, it's a 3-day convention, except the opening ceremony is on Thursday, so it's a 3.5-day convention.
Okay.
But for me, it lasted 6 days. Because, and this is funny, we had to really rush the recording, and then I had to rush the editing of the last episode, which actually turned out surprisingly well, in my opinion. I think it was a pretty good episode. But yeah, I mean, I'm lucky it was a good episode because if it required a ton of editing, I would have probably not been able to do it. But I did that. I got it set up so that it would go up on Friday while I was at the convention, and I actually managed that somehow, which is amazing. And then because of that, I had about 2 hours of sleep, and then I drove to pick up my friend from the airport. because SFO to Walnut Creek, which is where the convention is being held, is a pretty rough drive, to be honest. Like if you take like a ride share there, it'll be like $50 to $70. So I thought I would, help my friends out, so I did that, and it's I don't know, the convention as a whole was really, really amazing. I had like a really great time. It's it's a small con, and it's like run with such a great level of like care about its attendance that like it just feels very nice. The con is like shared with some other events, just because there's a special thing you can do where you can just buy out the hotel, like there is buying out every room in the hotel and then doing a buyout. The difference being that the buyout, it means you are including the rooms that are reserved for like business contracts and like special events. So you have to pay like cancel all those contracts, and then but you get to have the hotel, basically, like have the whole hotel. And they're looking at that for next year, depending on how much that costs. I don't know, and it seems like they don't know, but because they just learned about it. But I mean, it's really fun. I got to speak to the person who runs the convention, Sean Nittner, because he's around, despite how busy he is, like making sure the convention is not on fire. But yeah, it's a very like small convention, and it feels like very much. Well, actually, it's interesting because it feels like there's kind of like a couple of small circles that like run around, but for the most part, it feels very like nice and small and friendly. It's very friendly and nice. I met a ton of people over the weekend. The event is mostly focused around like tabletop and board game stuff. So most everybody there is there to either play tabletop games or talk about tabletop games. Half of them, at least, are like tabletop designers who make stuff in the space, like in the like indie-ish space, which includes me now, actually, which is funny. And it was very interesting getting to meet a whole bunch of new people and like listen to what they're up to in terms of like making games, and it was really cool. I made a lot of really great friends. Like I'm very, very happy about all the friendships that I made over the weekend. I got to see some old friends. I got to make a ton of new friends. And overall, it was like, I don't know, it was really chill. I felt like for the first time in a long time, mostly because I had just thrown all my obligations out the window to go to this convention, it felt very relaxing, even though I spent like 90% of it shit posting in the lobby with my friends. But you know what? That's kind of okay. That's kind of okay. I also like spent a lot of it designing a game. And by the end of it, it was pretty fucking cool. Because essentially it became a way to get it was a way to generate a mech name and a finishing move in the style of like an anime mech name and finishing move. And it seemed like it was a hit because that's the first part of the game. The second part is you actually play it with another person. But I did the first part for a ton of people. Like it was a kind of a nice like little party game where I would just give people mech names, and it was really cool. And that was a super fun time. But yeah, I spent basically Wednesday through Sunday shitposting in the lobby and talking to people. I mean, I didn't go to that many events. But I got to have a ton of great food, as one does when one is at a convention, especially one that's so close to my neck of the woods. It's a little far out of my field of expertise, but all of the stuff is still like California, West Coast, Bay Area, so I had a handle on things.
Yes.
We went to get ramen, we went to get Korean barbecue, we went to get hot pot, so we completed the holy trifecta of foods that make me happy.
Yeah.
And that was super great. The hot pot place is actually really, really nice. It was like a Japanese hot pot place, I think, or a Japanese sort of inspired hot pot place with like a couple of sort of Korean options because the broths weren't like traditional, like, oh, there's like the spicy broth and there's like the herbal broth or whatever. But overall, yeah, that was very tasty. I had a lot of good food. I drank a decent amount over the weekend, mostly just like sit in the lobby, have an overpriced beer, talk to your friends. Sit in the lobby, have an overpriced beer, talk to your friends. They seemed, the bar seemed very busy. They seemed very understaffed for this event. And many of them seemed like they were still in training because they were a bit confused as to what was supposed to be happening. One night, I was like, okay, can I like open a tab? And the guy was like, sure. And then when I came back to the bar, one of the other people was like, oh, actually, we're not keeping tabs tonight. I'm like, okay, well, can I get my card back? Aside from that, on Monday, I had some hangouts with my with some people like who very quickly became my friends because their flights were later in the evening, and I said, well, I mean, if you're flying out later, I can drive you to the airport. Because even though they were going to different airports, some of them were going to SFO and some of them were going to Oakland. It was fine. It actually ended up being fine because the person who needed to go to SFO, I just dropped at like a BART station and they were able to just take the BART to the airport, which is really nice. I'm glad that they got there safely. And then I just had to go back to the hotel, pick up some more people, and then head to the hotel or head to the airport. But it was really nice. Like we spent the day in Japantown. We had some food at like one of the restaurants, and then we went and got some takoyaki. And then one of the people from the convention stayed in my home for 2 extra nights because his flight was on Wednesday.
Oh, was that planned or?
Basically, I think I don't remember when it came up, but I was like, I was asking around, and I think somebody else was like, oh, there's a typhoon in Japan that's happening, and my flight goes through Japan, so like, is it possible for me to crash at your place or something? Because I know you live around here. Because if that flight gets canceled, I'm fucked basically. But yeah, I definitely offered my home to at least 1 or 2 people. And one of them was like, I'm flying out on Wednesday, and I'm like, well, I mean, you can stay in my home if you'd like, if you've got no plans. Because hotel stays are pretty expensive. So
yeah, that's butts when you have to stay an extra day, pay hotel.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, just come stay at my place. It'll be fine. And that was really fun, actually. We got to hang out. We got to talk about all manner of shit. I really like him. I think he was one of the nicest people I met. We spent a day in San Francisco. Took him to my favorite ramen place. And we went to see Promare. Yeah, that was it.
Oh,
I took him to see Promare.
Yeah.
And that was really fun because we immediately clicked because he has some very good opinions about like trigger works and like Kill la Kill, which are very interesting. I would be very like interested to have him on for an episode. And he really likes Kamen Rider, so it's possible that we could just do like a thing where we watch Kamen Rider and we go on his show or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, because he does a
cool.
podcast, I think, about Kamen Rider.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'll leave a link to that. I had a great time. He was also the person who was like, your novel idea. What if it was like this? And I'm like, holy shit.
Oh.
That was really fun. I taught him about the history of, like, I gave him a Vocaloid history lesson. Which was very interesting. I didn't realize how much I knew about it generally, but like, wow, I've really been listening to Vocaloid for like 10 years, huh?
I mean, I don't even know much about Vocaloid history, so yeah, I guess you're our historian now.
Yeah, I guess so. See, the thing is that I feel like, at the very least, in English, there's no real recognition for like Vocaloid and what it is as like a cultural phenomena in Japan, and I would be very interested to see if there were any scholarly articles about it in Japanese. But that's beside the point. I have some very interesting opinions about it because it coincides with internet and memes in a very fascinating way to me. But that was my weekend at Big Bad. It was just amazing. And then afterwards, I had a good sleep.
Oh, good.
A
Just
couple
what
of
you
good sleeps
needed.
actually, because my I came down with a cold immediately afterwards.
Oh,
I wasn't super sick. It was just I just felt like my throat hurt basically. So as soon as I got over that, like it wasn't even a big deal. Yeah. And then I had 2 hellish days on Friday and Saturday because my entire day, both days, was packed from morning to like midnight. Because oh shit. Okay, before we move on, because we only watched 4 shows. I do want to keep the show short-ish, so that I don't, because there's no reason to overstay our welcome, of course. I got to watch on Saturday Bong Joon-ho's Parasite,
okay.
which was a really good movie. Frankly, it's kind of an amazing movie. I know about Bong Joon-ho as like a director. He's a Korean director who does like a lot of like he does a lot of movies that include really shocking displays of violence. To make like larger points about I mean, depending on whatever it is about. Like Parasite is this incredible allegory for poverty, and it hits like, because it's really funny until it's not, is the thing.
Oh.
Like it's really funny and like kind of almost whimsical. And then the violence starts and the weird shit starts and you're like, holy crap, this is a lot. Definitely his movies are Bong Joon-ho is also the director of Snowpiercer, the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, like whoa boy, it is so intense. It is a very intense movie. I walked out of that theater like, oh my god, am I going to sleep tonight? Like, holy shit, I'm still thinking about it. It's kind of amazing. I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I will not talk about it now because, well, I don't want to spoil the movie yet. And obviously, like, you haven't seen it, so I would just be talking at the void.
Yes, you would be talking at an and oh, wow.
Yeah. I would recommend watching it.
Okay.
It has a couple of like really violent moments at the end of the movie, and you'll know when that kind of switch flips. But it's too. I think that the tone shift is like really really well handled, like because the movie is really suspenseful all the way through, and it's only at the end when you really like kind of hit that breaking point, and it's like it's such a wonderfully put together piece. But yeah, if you're like kind of a squeamish person, it is a little hard to get through the ending bit.
All right, it might be hard for me to get through the ending bit.
Yeah, I think as far as a movie goes, it's very very good. I think you would like most of the movie until the people started like doing violence, but it'd just be like that. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about that movie, but I will pocket them for now. Maybe I'll talk about them in the future. We don't have to talk about it for the podcast, obviously. Maybe
we could.
But we could. Yeah,
it.
if you wanted to go watch it for the podcast, we could definitely do an episode about Parasite. That would not be a huge issue. All right, let's talk about anime. We literally only watched like 4.5. If that, like maybe just 4.
Yeah. It's true.
Like I said, we get to a point where we start playing catch up, and then like it's over. Like anything that we're not super invested in it just falls by the wayside. And and funnily enough, we weren't even that invested in Fire Force, and we still watched most of it.
Yeah, I think this was an okay season for us to have been super busy because there weren't that many shows that like I was like we gotta keep up every week kind of thing.
I think so. I feel like we maybe should have just dropped Fire Force and watched like Vinland Saga. Because I think
100% agree.
I think of the two,
okay.
Vinland Sagas is better, and I think of the three of Vinland Saga, Fire Force, and O Maidens, I think O Maidens might also beat out Fire Force. There's a point at which you're like, well, the premise for Fire Force and Promare sound really similar, and then you watch them and you're like, oh no. I'm going to talk about Promare for a lot longer.
Yeah. It's so unfortunate.
There's really good ideas in Fire Force, like the world building in it is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's not as good even as Soul Eater was, so
Right. I mean, maybe it just like didn't hold my attention as well as Soul Eater, which
is a shame because it looks really good.
It does look really good, but I'm thinking in terms of like if I had never watched Soul Eater and so I didn't have anything to compare it to in that regard, right? Like if this was like the author's first work or whatever, I feel like even then I would still be like, I'd still think that it was just a Blue Exorcist derivative, right?
I mean, that's true. It does feel very much like Blue Exorcist.
Like, oh god, like painfully so. And
yeah.
And so that's the biggest turnoff for me for it, is like the only compelling point of it was like the beautiful animation. But if you have no story to back it up, and if I don't particularly care about your characters either, then there's no point, you know? Yeah.
That's fair.
Anyway, we jumped right into Fire Force, even though like.
Well, I mean, we didn't even finish it, so like.
Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, let's start in the order that we wrote this down, and not just completely ignore the fact that we did some prep for this. Or else I'll be sad.
We could just let it flow naturally too.
I mean, we could like it. Okay, let's just get Fire Force out of the way because we didn't finish it. Did you finish Vinland Saga?
I did not finish Vinland Saga.
How much of it did you watch?
Huh?
How much of it did you watch?
I think I watched like 4 episodes.
Okay,
3 or
fair
4?
enough. We'll talk about Fire Force, then Vinland Saga, and then we'll go from there. So, Fire Force it's okay. It's solidly okay.
It's solidly okay. Yes, I agree.
Like the animation of it is very, very good for a seasonal anime.
Yes.
And the fire effects are very, very good and stunning.
Yes. It's gorgeous, yeah.
It is a very pretty show, and it flows very well.
Yes.
But I think it struggles a little bit to like say what it's really about at all, because it has it seems to have a lot of trouble focusing, because it's like it's got a lot of these kind of disparate pieces that never really come together. Like there's this whole thing about like he looks like kind of scary because he just smiles all the time, and it's like just mostly a gag. It's not really anything, which is like it's fine to have like character traits that aren't like immediately and like intimately connected to the story, but like it just feels like it was meant to do something but it doesn't, which is kind of how I feel like about a lot of it, because I am fascinated by the world building of Fire Force. I think it's very interesting, this idea that in the post-apocalypse, which was what happened, there was an apocalypse and we're in the post-apocalypse. The government and the corporation are basically like one entity. There's firefighters that like suppress fires, and also like these fire monster people things that it's like this setup that could say something interesting, but is just kind of not focused enough to like actually deliver on much of anything. It does really feel a lot like a Blue Exorcist derivative. Yeah. Because, like, Blue Exorcist also has that, like, that whole thing about, like, religion and prayer and that sort of setup. And I admit that kind of stuff is always a little fascinating to me. Because my favorite part of Fire Force by far is where they're, like, where they're, like, praying. They're, like, doing the, like, hand symbol and they're praying. Yeah. And they're like putting people to rest or whatever, because that's Yeah, I think if it came out in a different season, we might have been more invested in it. But it came out the same season as Demon Slayer, and Demon Slayer is just like 100 times better. Like everything that Fire Force does is so like, while the setup is interesting, the conventions of it are very, very classic standard bog standard shonen. Whereas Demon Slayer actually is very interesting from the standpoint of like it's about something else.
Yeah, like if I had to like think of anime that Demon Slayer reminded me of, I would be able to think of several, right? Whereas for Fire Force, I think of two two solid ones that I would arguably would rather watch more than Fire Force.
I would rather watch those.
Yeah, and even then, it's like I wasn't like, I mean, I was a big fan of Soul Eater despite its ending for the anime, which was dumb, and I was like an okay fan of Blue Exorcist, like enough to like watch all of it, but it was still like very okay at the end, right?
Yeah.
And then with Fire Force, it's like even less than that, right?
See, the thing is, I'm always very interested in this idea of like monster suppression forces as being like part of a like religious entity and what that means.
Yeah.
And it only like, as far as I remember in the manga, it only even vaguely touches on that, and not in any real satisfying way. Whereas Demon Slayer literally does it better, like without anyone being a religious character, which is so funny to me.
Yeah, like I feel like at least in terms of they both try to garner sympathy for the quote unquote monsters, right? And I feel like, for me at least, that Demon Slayer delves into it way deeper than Fire Force, and arguably that might be because like they show like the entire demon's backstory or whatever in a couple minutes and whatnot. But even then, like I feel like the emotional hit, like the emotional points like hit harder for Demon Slayer versus Fire Force. Right.
I like, the thing about Fire Force to me is that it doesn't do what Demon Slayer does as well, because even if a show is like gonna try to garner sympathy for like the antagonists, it doesn't always go well. Sometimes it feels a little bit like whatever. The reason that it works so well for Demon Slayer is that the central ethos of the show is about that. Like it's about the fact that none of these people actually really deserved this, right? Whereas Fire Force like has an attempt at that, but it just is not interesting because the central pillar of the show, like the main character as is not, right? It's just less interesting, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a show that looks very good, and has some interesting world building things, but also has really weirdly out of place, out of tone fan service, then I guess you could watch Fire Force.
I mean, Fire Force definitely has an appeal, and I feel like there are a lot of people who love it, and I think that's totally fine. I think it's just that appeal isn't exactly, at least up my alley. Like, I completely glazed over it. Like, there was almost nothing about that show that I was like, yeah, I'm here for this.
Yeah, there's nothing that's really like that super interesting about it, to be honest. I do like the arc where they go to the district where it's like traditional Japanese firefighting, and so they have the people with the like big sticks.
Oh, see, I would like more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I think I was just basically hoping that part would come sooner, because I think the rest of it was kind of eh.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know. Jump into the interesting bits real soon.
Yeah, I
mean, the less I have to look at, I don't know, this boy with his shark teeth and bare feeties and how everyone makes a fuss over it is, so tiresome.
Yeah. It just makes you think of Promare, though, and I like Promare a lot.
I love Promare.
I would just rather watch Promare over and over again.
I would rather rewatch Promare again. Yeah.
Okay. I mean that's a fucking lot tome for that one.
Yeah,
that one to
I
rest.
don't know. I feel like I don't want to be like too hard on it because it's not a bad show. But I feel like we maybe it's because it is a middle of the road show for us that we kind of lay into it harder because it's not like.
Listen, I'm just laying into it because it has interesting ideas and does nothing with them.
Right, exactly. That's why I get so offended by like shows that like Bungo Stray Dogs. It's like you're so middle of the road, but you could have been so much more kind of thing. But people love that show, and it's like, okay, you're totally allowed to love that show. So I don't want to like lay into it too hard because it's not like it was. It's not like it, I don't know, really, really turned my world upside down or anything and made me want to riot on the streets. But, yeah.
Okay. I mean, honestly, same. Like, I feel very similar about Bungo Stray Dogs. So, let's talk about Vinland Saga briefly. Sure. I know a lot of people who very much like this show. I know a lot of people who like laud the manga as like the like second coming of Christ, I guess.
Like literally the best manga to ever be made ever is what a lot of people say.
That's
and
what
I
I've
have friends who say that too. So but yeah, I think apparently the anime is rather faithful to the manga from my understanding of it.
The first episode looked good.
Yeah, and so I think it deserves the praise that it gets. Honestly, maybe it could be that it's overhyped, but from what I've seen of this story, it's really, really well done. Oh my goodness!
I've heard that it's like because it's so grounded historically in its setting.
Yeah.
And like it sounds like the drama is very good in it as well.
Yeah.
Which I mean, people like Viking shows.
Yeah, and it's not like one of those things where like you'll get your plot twists all twisted up and you'll never see the next thing coming, like kind of like the Game of Thrones whatever, you don't know who's gonna die next. It's not like that,
right?
But it's a solidly well told story, and it's also got great historical research put into it. It's really, really well animated, well drawn, that kind of thing. Like it feels like it hits every aspect of, that form of storytelling really well. And
nice.
Of course it's not perfect. And I'm sure people will like, I don't know, say this or that about, maybe nitpicking about historical accuracies or whatever. But I think it just like across the board, like I have trouble faulting it,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be said about like a story that you can see the trajectory of the story, but it's still compelling along the way.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
God knows that Promare is literally just like that taken to the utmost extreme.
Yeah,
it's like it's like the trigger formula taken to its logical conclusion, where they're so past the point of caring. They're like, okay. We know that you hate the part where we just explain things, so here's a 5-minute like spark notes of the things that you need to know. Here is your mech. It's called Deus Ex Machina because we always have Deus Ex Machinas in Act 3 of like our shows. Fucking get it. It's so like it so doesn't give a shit about the fact that it just does the same thing over and over again.
It's just Studio Trigger the movie, and
that it's beautiful. It like you can overlook every other aspect of it because it's so disgustingly bombastically Trigger. And they've really perfected their formula. Anyway, this episode is not about Premiere. That's the last episode.
We had one about Premiere already.
But yeah, I hear that it's good. It looks good. I want to watch it. I think I will probably watch it on my own at some point. And
yes,
report
I highly recommend it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's cover what we actually did watch, like what we actually finished. For the most part, I mean, one of these shows continues into next season, so it's kind of whatever. Let's talk about Fruits Basket.
Yes, so
it's very good.
Oh my god! Like, so it continued from our previous season, but we continue watching it because we love it. And yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it covers everything in the original anime where it leaves off in this season, at least. And I don't know if they'll be making more, but I really hope they do because
I mean, I think
the manga continues from this point, so
right. It would be kind of a bummer if we got it again, where it's just like, oh,
right.
Whoops, no more anime.
Let's just cut it off at the same point or similar point, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they're gonna continue with it. I think the intention with the creation of the series was to make a sort of like complete telling, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yeah, please like do this and then do Oran.
Oh my god! Please, holy shit! What I would not give for an Oran remake.
I know.
I
need it in my soul.
I had to go back and read the manga for Ouran High School Host Club because I was like, this is unsatisfying to the extreme. And then when I got to the end, I was like, oh my god, really? Those two?
I know.
Anyway, I would rewatch. I would watch an anime that was all of Ouran. And like, yeah, Fruits Basket, huh? I feel like the thing is, a lot of what I said in the last season's wrap up still stands. Like I have,
yeah.
I feel like most of what I would want to talk about is in there. Like this idea of like love as a concept that is applicable to different like things. It's like so free flowing, and I love that. Like we're kind of like scratching at like the Fruits Basket surface. Really, like we need more of it so that we can like get to the. I mean, there's admittedly a lot of it that's already very heavy.
Yeah,
but like like we need a little bit more of it. Obviously,
I feel like it just strikes just a really nice balance between the heavy and the light. And
yeah,
I do love that it explores all these different aspects and ways of expressing love, not necessarily romantic love. Which is really nice.
Yeah, I personally think that like all of the strengths of Fruits Basket are definitely present. Like the reason why people liked it to begin with are definitely there, and then it's just updated to look better. Like it's as straightforward as that. Really, it's updated to look better. The anime looks like it's gonna cover the actual whole story, which is nice for a change.
Bless me, please.
And I mean, yeah, like all the themes like this, I mean, very much like yeah, you got Naruto.
Uh-huh.
He turns into the nine-tailed fox.
Uh-huh.
You got I don't know. I don't know where I was going with this joke. But
yeah, where did Naruto come in?
Well, the Catboy is just Naruto.
I mean, I guess so. But also,
anyway,
how dare you?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's very good, and it's a very like it's a very honest approach to like the way it handles like what love is very interesting. Like it has some very good things to say, because it's like this because Kyo's whole thing is like his mom would always be like, I love you, all these like reaffirming words, but like he wouldn't be allowed to go outside, he wouldn't be allowed to do whatever. And
yeah,
it's like this very honest addressal of like you're basically refusing to look at me, right? Like you're just ignoring the bad things about me. You're not acknowledging that they exist and that it's okay that they exist.
Right.
Which I thought was like very like, I was like, oh damn.
Yeah, right. That's so real, dude.
So yeah, it's very much a it's good. Like honestly, like do I have to convince anybody to watch Fruits Basket at this point? Like if you know you're gonna like it, like I feel like anyone who's gonna like Fruits Basket has almost certainly already seen it. But for those of you that haven't, if you want something that's a little bit like, if you want to see what depictions of queerness were like in the early 2000s, where everything was a little hush hush under the table, but also a little bit like we're being coy about it, but also like it's pretty explicit how like gay these children are. And, like, the whole, like, animal thing can also be read as a metaphor for queerness. all that sort of stuff. Fuck it up, man. Just watch Fruits Basket. It's good.
Sit down and watch it.
Sit down and watch Fruits Basket. It is a classic for a reason. If you like shoujo, definitely watch it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's such a glimpse into what shoujo was like in the early 2000s.
Just everything. All of it.
Just all of it. All of it was like this. Yeah. So that's Fruits Basket. Demon Slayer is like very much in the same boat. A lot of what we talked about still stands, and this is going to be the case with anything we talk about that like wraps around in terms of seasons.
I mean, I would argue that the second half of Dororo is much weaker than the first half.
Well, that's very fair. You know, you're very right. They just kind of ran out of steam at the end there.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer though is the exact opposite. It ramps the fuck up.
Oh God!
Like
the stakes are so much higher,
including the animation. Like it all just ramps up. Where they're like, do you want to see the most beautiful anime fight scene you've ever seen in your life with more particle effects than God? Here you go. Here's episode 19. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
It felt like they properly planned for how long these 2 seasons were gonna be, which is wonderful.
It very much seemed like that. Like they had an idea of how they were gonna do it, how they were gonna approach it. And you know what? It's so good. It like maintains all of the quality of the first half, arguably like getting better, which is
I think it gets
shocking.
better.
Yeah,
yes.
I think it gets better. They also, I think the second half of the season is very interesting. They seem to use CG a lot less.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I'm not sure what that's about. It might be because there were less of these like really like transition-y shots. A lot of it was kind of either they were fighting, or either they were moving, or either they were like talking.
Can you imagine if they CG'd the Spiderhead babies or the baby head
that'd be
spiders?
the most horrific thing ever. That scene, by the way, is actually really good. See, the thing is, I feel like a lot of people have a lot of problems with Zenitsu as a character, and I completely understand that he's very annoying. He's very obnoxious. His voice actor does a great job of being very obnoxious.
Yes.
And his like modus operandi is basically just I'm gonna harass women all the time, which is not ideal. But in Zenitsu's defense, not that I'm going to excuse any of that, but I think that the other stuff about him is better, and I as far as I remember, that stuff really tapers off later. Like, as far as I remember, after the set that the anime has gone through, I feel like he doesn't really do it that much, but I could be wrong. At the very least, it wasn't as noticeable to me, and a lot of his other, well, I mean, to be fair, Zenitsu is like only there for like some of the arcs. I mean, he's only vaguely present, basically, because he has to be unconscious to actually do anything. But yeah, I think that every other aspect of him, aside from being a fuckboy, is good. Like, I think, aside from being the world's biggest and most annoying fuckboy, like his introduction to Tanjiro, where he's like, I know that you're keeping a demon in this box, but I am going to protect it literally with my life because you're so kind, I want to cry. And like, I kind of wish that the other aspects of him that were not as savory were a little bit less pronounced, because I think that scene is very good for setting Zenitsu's character as somebody who is just mortally terrified of death. Like, he just like, I'm gonna die all the time. I'm gonna scream about it all the time. But like, he still overcomes that fear to help people because he is on some level kind and he wants to help people.
Yeah, for me, I think the author does an excellent job of handling his character because like, he is very purposefully presented
obnoxious.
with all of his all of his worst possible characteristics are from like the first 2 minutes that you meet him. He's like womanizing. He's just like a layabout. He's a coward. Everything in the first couple minutes that you're meeting him. And it isn't until the end of that arc that you see like the one redeeming characteristic that maybe makes like getting to know him kind of worth it. And you think, okay, well, what if that one redeeming characteristic was further brought out by him continuing to be around Tanjiro? And then you kind of get hope that like that's the trajectory for his character, is that he'll continue to grow despite all of these obvious flaws to his character.
Yeah, I think as soon as the train arc ends, he gets a lot better. And it's wild to me that they're just gonna make it a movie, because holy shit, I can't wait.
I think that's gonna be awesome. I can't wait.
I know, having read the manga, having been caught up to the manga, there is a moment with Zenitsu that is really, really good.
Yay.
Yeah. But I mean, at least everyone can agree that objectively, Tanjiro and Inosuke are perfect.
They don't need to develop at all. They're just perfect the way they are.
No, they're not. I mean, like the thing is that it could potentially be seen as not that interesting, because like if you have a main character who doesn't necessarily go through a lot of character growth because they like start as a shithead and then they get better, right? Mm-hmm. That might not be as interesting to certain people who really want that. But I think that like Tanjiro being the central pillar around which the show operates is very important. And while he doesn't change much, he does change.
Yeah.
But like even when he gets stronger, right? Like he never forgets that the whole point is that he's supposed to be kind, and that he is incredibly empathetic even to demons, and that like the reason that he's able to really like achieve this level has to do a lot with how kind he is, because like there is a point where he realizes oh, that's in the manga, never mind, I'm not gonna talk about that. Okay. I think it's really good. Tanjiro is an amazing primary character. Inosuke is objectively perfect, and then you have Zenitsu who shines in certain moments, and yeah, like I said this before, but the thing about Demon Slayer that's very impressive is the way that it uses tropes and understanding of those tropes to fast track understanding of what's happening, to like increase readability of content. Like this is what Promare does all the time, because it's such a trigger core movie, basically. Like everything about it is extremely Studio Trigger, so it's extremely readable. You know, this is a character, he's really dumb, he's really straightforward, he's gonna do stuff, there's gonna be a Deus Ex Machina in the third act, etc., etc. Like,
yeah,
it uses like these hooks, these tropes as hooks to like really just skip over most of the boring stuff that everyone has already seen a million times before, and to get to the actual interesting stuff, which is fighting demons and learning how to use your abilities or whatever. That still stands for sure. I like that Demon Slayer is a shonen like battle manga anime about kindness. Like it is about being nice to people, even though you're technically killing them. But it's like what I said about Fire Force, right? Where it is about releasing people from suffering. This is like, it does that, but actually has something to say about it, which is hilarious. Because Tanjiro is like one of the only people who's really like really sees demons as like still people, and like he's doing something to help them. And a lot of the reason he's doing that is because he's carrying the literal manifestation of his failure on his back.
Yeah.
Like his sister is a demon, but she's not trying to eat him. Right. And even if she was, he would still try to protect her because he feels like he failed her. And in turn, she also is able to like recognize him and like, you know, overcome that kind of like demonness, and it makes for such a good dynamic because there's a reason why Tanjiro is so kind. Like, and there's a reason why he burdens himself so much and why he takes on so much responsibility and he keeps pushing himself. It's because of the literal thing that happened at the beginning of the series that always comes back up as like the catalyst for all this, and always comes back up as a thing that you should remember because it was actually very sad and traumatic.
What I love about it is that yes, he's on paper, I guess, your typical shonen protagonist with a tragic backstory, you know? But the way that they handle it is in such a way that, yes, it could very well just be your typical revenge story. He's gonna go kill all the demons and stuff like that and forget his values until like the pivotal moment that he remembers, his parents taught him about kindness all along. But the fact that he never actually forgets that, and rather he actually gets stronger so that he can live up to those principles, I think is really, really great. I think it's a nice approach to the whole, like, potentially could have gone just plain old revenge route, but instead he's going the I got people to save route.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it because it's like you can tell that he has a great deal of kindness towards demons, and at the same time he's like very like vehemently not going to ever forgive the person who caused all this, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like there are people who are caught in the crossfire of what is happening, and then there's like the person who actually did it, and
right,
it's really great that he's like, you know, you did not choose to be this way, like you have killed a lot of people, but like what I'm doing is not killing you for the sake of killing you, or even killing you for the sake of justice. It is killing you so that you may rest at peace and not be a demon and have to kill more people, right?
Yeah.
It's such a good central, like, core for the show to revolve around. Oh god, it's so good. Demon Slayer.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful because it so painstakingly pays attention to the people along the way, whereas another story that might be more focused on the revenge of getting to the final bad guy might be like, here's disposable fodder group number 1, here's group number 2, and so on and so forth. And the fact that Tanjiro goes like foe by foe and, you know, tries to address them as people, tries to appeal to their whatever remaining humanity they have left before they ultimately have to battle and whatnot. Versus the antagonist who we just saw, like, in one of the latest episodes, just goes through their own minions, like the fodder that we might expect, like a revenge hero might also do, right? Like just cuts them down right there. You don't even really know anything about who they were, what their personalities were like beyond that brief glimpse in that one episode. So I think that contrast was really well played too.
Yeah. It's also, I think it's also very interesting because it has one of the most varied portrayals of family and what it means to protect your family. Like, because there's obviously like the Tanjiro and his sister Nezuko as like the baseline of like this is the one like familial relationship that is like kind of central to the show, but you have a lot of other stories that kind of revolve around the characters and their families as well. It comes to a very sharp point later in the manga, like in the latest chapters, but like here it's very interesting because you have the household, the Kocho household, like the butterfly pillar, where you have the girl who is the pillar, her older sister who was killed by a demon, and they're basically like adopted younger sister, right?
Yeah.
And it's this very I promise it will come back up again. I will not say how or why. But it's very good, And there's also other very complicated family dynamics that come up later, and I'm
getting that
so
hint
looking forward to it
because they've
I'm
already
so looking forward to
started. They did so with the demon and the spider family, or
right,
you know.
like what does it mean to be a family?
Right, and they explored it in terms of like, this is what happens when you try to like make a fake family and force people through fear into these familial roles just for your own personal satisfaction.
Right. I mean, honestly, it's pretty much indistinguishable from a family, like because even if it's like the people who are your familiar relations, I know it's not literally like that in the show, but like, you know, a family that looks like a family from the outset could just be pretending to be a family.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
like,
No, it
looking
could
like a family.
definitely have very real life parallels, right? That arc or
Like
that family dynamic.
A family held together by fear is not a family.
Right.
A family is held together by love. And like, God, it's good. It's good. It's very good. I love Demon Slayer. I want more of it. I can't wait for the train arc. It's gonna be so good.
Movie.
Let's talk about the last thing that we actually watched, which was Dr. Stone.
Yes.
How did you feel about Dr. Stone, Renu?
I thought it was so fun.
Yes.
I know people who are super sticklers for like, you know, science and accuracy and what is all this shonen nonsense, who probably might not like this, but that's because they going in would know that they wouldn't like this kind of shonen nonsense. But
right.
This is such good shonen nonsense.
No. So, yeah, right. Like, Dr. Stone is really good, and it is part of this new wave of shonen anime and manga that are not about fighting.
Yes.
Like, it's basically like the shonen battle anime of science. Because, sure, it's not necessarily like one-to-one hyper-realistic, but the general trends of it and the general things that it says are fine enough. Like, they're similar enough to real life. Because obviously, you watch a shonen like martial arts tournament and you're like, okay, all right, calm down. Where Dr. Stone is very much the same way, where they're like, yes, sulfuric acid, etc. I mean, I would agree that it is just overall a good time.
Yeah, it's purely, it knows what it's about, which is it wants you to have fun, maybe also learn some science.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it has this like current of like this is interesting actually, because it has this current of like science as progress, which is, I mean, natural for characters that believe in science. Like the central character like really believes in science.
Yes.
And it like speaks of this like of like the present day from the perspective of like that not existing anymore, and like
right.
Obviously there is a level of like well, also science did very many bad things, let's be fair, but also like I think that it is entirely a reasonable position to take, to be like, well, we made science to help people and to make life easier for people. From a very like kind of surface level view, like you can very much read it that way. And it's very interesting to me. This will come up in the later episodes, and I'm not like too concerned about spoiling it because whatever, it's Dr. Stone, where the race, quote unquote, is essentially like if Senku creates like you saw it, right? Where Senku is like, if we create gunpowder, we can kill Tsukasa. It's the only thing we can do.
Oh my god.
But when it comes down to it, when they're given the choice of what to do with it, they decide to use it not to kill people, right? They use it to signal people and to like bridge that connection. So I think it does have perhaps something to say about the way that science connects people.
I think it's yes, I think it's interesting because obviously it's targeted towards, you know, a younger audience in terms of like, you know, people who would normally read Shonen Jump, right? And so it kind of has to be a bit like not too like hardcore in terms of like, oh, these people are gonna die. Like that one guy that I thought was gonna die so many times that one episode. And get like beaten to death or, you know, like whatever. And then he ends up fine. I was like, oh, that's a very soft way of approaching it. I'm fine with that because that's not the point of the show. I think it also in that way tends to kind of like softly allude to, you know, obviously the threats that come with scientific progress.
Right.
But also more heavily focuses on being optimistic about science and how it can be properly utilized to, you know, to do great things like provide medicine, provide glasses, you know, all these things that we wouldn't have, that we'd be struggling with to this day if it wasn't for scientific progress, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like there is an amount of like addressing of it, right? Like Tsukasa as the main antagonist is like, I don't want to resurrect this corrupt society, which is fair.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, valid. But also, like, going around and murdering people, maybe
not valid.
maybe not valid to indiscriminately murder people when they can't fight back is like, okay, all right, hold up. Let's think about this. You can't indiscriminately destroy adult people just because you feel like they're all corrupt. That's not how this works. But, like, there is a very wistfulness about the show, and really about any show that is kind of like this. Like, I know Slime was like kind of touching on this as well, where because one of the characters is like an isekai character, but from like firebombed Japan, and then he comes in and he's like, oh yeah, we're actually doing like great quote unquote, of course, like people committing suicide in high amounts due to mass stress because corporatism and capitalism is the best. But like from a like far away lens, from the I want to be optimistic about this lens, which I think a lot of shonen is and is always kind of like going to be like that, right?
Yeah.
And this is what impresses me about Demon Slayer, where it is about kindness and not about letting people run over you, where it's like, I'm doing you a kindness by putting you to rest. I have to kill you, but it's not because I want to do violence. It is literally because I want to save you. Anyway, I think that a lot of shonen is like that, where because it's geared towards a younger audience, like explicitly in the genre, it is meant to take a very optimistic view to things, to say like, well, we can always change things.
Right. And it tries to take like a guiding kind of frame of like just stand basically, but without being too patronizing about it.
Yeah.
And I think it does a fairly good job, because I think it pretty clearly demonstrates Senku's flaws, which is sometimes he doesn't always consider the human component in all of this mess, but at the end of the day he is trying to do good with science versus bad.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is science for the beauty of progress, but also on some level it is to help people. And that's really what's important. Like the ability to have, because this is the thing about shonen, is that shonen revolves so strongly around having power and using that power for something. And oftentimes it is about having power and like seeing what it's like for people to misuse it and having your own power to correct that. So it is very important to, in a shonen like anime, to have characters that care about people. And like this is why the sort of previous generation of shonen has kind of been descended into this generation, where all of it is revolving more or less around saving people. Because, you know, Dragon Ball Z is obviously like power for the sake of power. I want to become stronger because I want to be stronger and I want to beat stronger people. And like, it continues to be that way where Goku's like, I'm going to risk the entire civilization on our planet to fight stronger people. Woo!
Yes. Woo!
And it just so happens that he like is saving people occasionally by doing that. And, you know, Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece are also very much like this, where they're all about getting power for the sake of having power to beat the people who are misusing their power and incidentally saving people. Whereas this generation of shonen is so different in that regard of people have power and they have to use that power to help other people, you know? And it's not a new concept, right? It is literally the guiding principle of Spider-Man, where with great power you have great responsibility. But I think it's only really now that it's been embraced as kind of the thing that we're doing, right? Like, Senku wants to build a kingdom of science, and he's doing it, and he's also building medicine to help sick people, and like glasses and all that sort of stuff. Like, he wants to do it to help people because he knows that these things in his world were helpful to people. And in the same way, Demon Slayer is about saving people by, you know, beating them in single combat. And in a very, very similar way, like, in maybe the simplest and purest way, My Hero Academia is literally about that. It is about saving people because you're a hero. You're not just a dude that fights good. Right. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about the way that our conceptions of the genre have evolved over time. Because it is very interesting to me that shonen nowadays is a lot more focused around this kind of thing, which I like personally because I like that kind of thing. Yeah, it's about softness, about being soft.
About being soft. It's okay to be soft.
It's okay to be soft. I mean, you have to also be hard, but like you're hard and soft.
You gotta have a nice balance.
You gotta have a nice balance so that when it comes down to it, you can be soft to the people who you need to be soft to, and hard to the people you need to be hard to. It's just how it be. It's just how it be. Yeah, I think overall Dr. Stone is very, very fun and very indicative of this kind of new wave of shonen shows. Because, I mean, this season, not the season we're talking about right now, but the season that has just started airing, Food Wars has come back. So, like,
see, I was just thinking about how refreshing this latest series of protagonists have been, and then I was like, oh, but then Food Wars just has Soma.
Like, no, I like Soma. I have a lot of feelings about Food Wars, and I think I've actually read most of the manga. I think it's over now, and there's like a couple of extra chapters at the end. Yeah, and I can say with a decent amount of certainty that like actually Food Wars is also pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
Much of it,
then I haven't seen I don't know how much.
Yes, I will say it doesn't really address it until like the very end.
Oh, okay.
But it is on some level about that, because I mean it's a food show, so it has to be about that, right? Like, yes. It feels to me like the way like I understand Soma's character in terms of like, and I do think it's really endearing that he is like a family diner kind of cook, and that comes with a lot of like certain values, right, and certain beliefs in family and whatnot. I just don't I don't feel like his character, at least to me, is characterized as deeply as I would want it to be. At least so far from what I've seen on the show. I think that's fair. I will say the last arc, which goes absolutely like bonkers off the rail, by the way. The last arc is more focused around that because it's more about that level of like I will save you through my cooking, basically. Like I will use my cooking to evoke certain memories in you to help you overcome your trauma. That sort of thing. Okay. A little bit. It depends. Okay. Anyway. Food Wars is I think more on the spectrum of like pure entertainment. Dr. Stone
Yes.
also very entertaining. Very fun to watch. Like I don't. It's just a really nice shonen show to watch. Like I think
it's battling with
that's
cooking,
about,
just like Dr. Stone is battling with science. You know.
Yeah, battling
fun.
with cooking, battling with science. There's a manga called I don't know if it's called Act Age or Act Age. I'm fairly certain it's Act Age, which is it's a shonen about I think acting.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they battle with acting.
Yes, it's like an acting shonen battle manga.
Is this like that one show that you had really liked with the girls and they were dancing and there was a giraffe and they were in fancy outfits?
Yes. Like Review Starlight or whatever.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I haven't read it. I just brought it up because I'd heard that it was a shonen battle about acting.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, it is acting in Shoujo Kageki Review Starlight, but it's also they're actually fighting. Like, to be fair, they're brandishing weapons at each other.
There is literal fighting, but also acting to fight, and
yeah. Yeah. I think Dr. Stone is pretty good. Aside from the fact that like all the women characters look like that.
Oh man.
Like no. I've mentioned this countless times, but it seems like the mangaka does not know how to draw women, which is really weird because all the dudes he draws are like uniquely like great.
And the fact that they fan service the women quite a bit is like it's not as like overt as, you know, maybe like Shokugeki no Soma or whatever, obviously, but
right.
The fact that they do, and then you just see their face. And
I was gonna say it honestly it almost dampens the fan service effect. Like it becomes a little bit comical.
It's like, and the fact that you, having read the manga, said that the anime actually does them service. It just
really
like boggles
does,
my
which
mind.
is like the saddest part.
I can't deal with this.
I don't understand how all the women can look like that when all the dudes look fine.
Yeah, the dudes look fine.
Like, they look a little weird, but it's like a good weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all the women just look like this?
Has like a leak for hair, but it's fine.
I don't understand. I really don't, but I guess that's okay. That's whatever.
It's so you know who is man, who is woman.
Yeah, I guess so. None of the designs ever get better. I promise you. They don't get better. It's just something you have to get over when you watch the show, because you're just like, you have to stop looking at their faces, basically. You're like,
No.
Yeah. Aside from that, that's actually that's it. That's literally it. That was the last show we watched. Oh my god. We'll do better next time, I swear.
No, it's fine. I was actually reading comments of like while I was watching Dr. Stone, because you know sometimes people can leave comments on the episodes, and people were saying that you know the girls were their favorite part and how cute they were, and look at their face.
No,
like,
no. Who? Who are you?
No.
That's not okay. Those they're like if you learn.
It's so refreshing. I was like, wait, what part?
Holy shit. The women characters in the show look like if you learned how to draw women from a book that was titled like How to Draw Manga for Manly Men. Like how to draw sexy bimbo lady. Like that's literally what it looks like, and I don't understand it. It looks like somebody who drew like hentai, but like weird hentai.
No.
I don't understand it. I don't think I will ever understand how it can be like that. But aside from that, it's pretty entertaining. So yeah, that's it. We will do better next season. I promise.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
I know. I do this every single time, and I will continue to make promises that I can't keep. Just because that's what I'm like. We will probably do a trailer watch for the next season relatively soon, whenever we have time. So, at some point.
Yay.
Maybe. And then aside from that, we'll just continue trucking along. We're getting very close to the end of the year. We're getting distressingly close to the end of the year.
Hot diggity dog.
If we just counted based on the number of weeks, we would have 4 more episodes. Which is kind of horrific. That's terrifying. Anyway, thanks for listening. What are you up to, Renu? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch, Facebook, all at SwanDrawn. I'm on Instagram at swan.drawn. I have been streaming commission stuff, like emotes and all that. I am still going to be working on Inktober until the end of the month, and then I'll be done, and I don't know what I'll do in November, but hopefully I won't be a super masochist and also do NaNoWriMo, and I'll just watch Soup suffer through that instead.
God. My life will become a living hell. But that's okay. I kind of need that focus in my life anyway.
Yeah, you're the magician of sorcery, Soup.
I am. I'll do a magician of sorcering.
What will you be up to, buddy?
You can find me all places at Literal Soup. As always, I am. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, I'm not going to be up to that much. My partner will be visiting on Wednesday and then leaving on Monday. So, in the middle of when this episode goes out, I guess I will be, I don't know, going out to an aquarium or something.
That's cute.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I will be. I'm thinking about putting a Patreon together for myself, which is kind of a weird thing to talk about on my own podcast. Because you're already very generous enough to donate to the podcast. But yeah, I kind of just need something to do. do you know what I mean?
What do you mean? You don't have time for the things you already do.
I mean, I can make time. But it's just
oh my God.
I need to do some kind of work in my life right now, and I need money to do that.
Okay.
Also, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put it together, and obviously it is not a mandatory thing. It's just helpful for me. But I've already got one person who, one of my friends has said that he would most likely sign up for a tier that just is a $30 to $35 tier where it's just I go to a ramen place and dedicate a review in your name. Which is so far my favorite tier that I've come up with.
I think you would do quite well with that.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that, because that might be a thing that I end up putting together and putting up. My itch page is also Literal Soup. I'm thinking about putting some stuff up, I'm thinking about designing some stuff and putting it up. By which I mean I'm thinking about finally formatting some stuff to put up.
Yeah.
So definitely be on the lookout for that as well. I will tweet about it. You can find that, like I said, at Literal Soup. You can find our Twitter, the podcast Twitter, at AbsoluteCast on Twitter. And of course, our Patreon is patreon.com/@cast, which I messed up last time we did this. And then immediately corrected myself. Okay. Our opening is by Scotchy Network, and our ending is by Takuma Kara, and our patron to thank for this week is Frostfall. So thanks so much for
man,
supporting us, because really at this point, because I don't have a job, it's getting to be a little tenebrous. But yeah, you make the podcast up like a thing that I can do and not cry myself to sleep about.
Aww.
And everyone else who just listens, thank you so much, because
Thank you.
You know, we could not make this without you. So thanks so much. Let's do the ending thing.
Which one?
See you next time. Come on, Renu.
What? I have to do it too?
Yeah.
See you next time.
Dun, dun. Okay, nice. Let's get that bread.
Sayonara. また明日ね。